Hello. So, this little guy isn't exactly what I look like. I'm a lot chunkier, older, less well-dressed, maybe less like a smug hipster from a 90s commercial for Apple products. Also, I don't know if you're aware of this, but my torso isn't transparent. His is, due to this being my first attempt with Adobe Character Animator. In short, pardon the amateur hour presentation style. My videos, like me, are a work in progress. So anyway, on to the main topic. Who am I and why am I doing this? I guess I knew this day was coming. At some point, you can't just have a channel called Neurodivergent Musician and only play and talk about music. At some point, you have to deal with the neurodivergence. About me. I'm a late diagnosed autistic with ADHD, Tourettes, and generalized anxiety disorder. I also have a fairly strong case of avoidant personality disorder and just a dash of OCD thrown into the mix just for flavor. I believe the avoidant personality disorder hasn't been fully accepted as a separate diagnosis yet, as of the DSM-5. By using the phrase, "Oh look, I have an opaque torso now. Yay!" By using the phrase late diagnosed, I mean that I was diagnosed in my mid-50s. A lot of others consider it late to be diagnosed after your 20th birthday. So I guess that makes me very late diagnosed. Why was I finally diagnosed? Let me tell you that it wasn't for a lack of abundant evidence, but like with many others, it was when I had kids who got diagnosed that I was as well. Compared to being diagnosed in your 20s, I think that maybe being diagnosed much later presents almost an entirely different category of challenge. As an autistic man, I'm what's known as high masking or high functioning. Believe me, I am not high functioning. I guess I am high masking though. The late diagnosis is probably testament to that. I'm high masking because I learned to put a mask on at a very early age and at a time that was much less tolerant of differences such as autism. I'm also high masking because that mask is on so tight that I'm not sure if I even can take it off. It's become, for better or worse, perhaps another side of my identity. I know it seems strange to identify with a mask you wore to protect yourself from others seeing you as you really are, but I'm at a stage in my life where the mask has been screwed on so tight for so long that I'm not sure where the mask ends and where I begin. I lose sleep late at night. I almost always have. A secret spy camera could maybe catch a glimpse underneath the mask, but only after someone else around me has gone to sleep. I guess that's the only time it's safe. On average, I spend 1.5 to 2 hours a night on this alone time after my wife and kids are asleep, so I can sort of deal with the tics, anxiety, etc. well enough to get to sleep. I had a hard time having a roommate in college. When I was in the dorm, my dormitory had a little over 600 people in it. I would often be in the fluorescent lit hallways or in the student lounge by myself while just about everyone else was asleep. I couldn't be alone in my room. My roommate was asleep with the lights out. Cell phones and laptops didn't exist then to keep me company, so I wasted a lot of time just avoiding sleep. I hope that I'll be able to communicate about all these things in time. But for now, what I'd like to discuss is one of the elephants in the closet that has held me back from discussing any of this sooner. And that's the fact that lately I've been wrestling with a flooding sense of being totally overwhelmed. This isn't something that just happens on a bad day when things don't go quite right. But like the mask, it's a part of my identity. It's another voice in the internal dialogue, which too often becomes a swirling cacophony of competing voices in my head, all vying to be the thing I'm capable of focusing on. It's been almost 4 months since my last video. It was due to this sense of overwhelm. I was told by my psychologist and separately by a friend that maybe that's what the next video should be about. I think they were right. But I guess it kind of says something when you feel overwhelmed by the task of talking about how overwhelmed you are. In me, this slurry of autism, ADHD, Tourettes, generalized anxiety, avoidant personality issues, and that sprinkling of OCD combine for a synergistic effect. They contribute to this anxiety and the sense of being overwhelmed. For a simple example, when you have an autistic trait which causes 99% of all shirts to make you itch uncontrollably and give you a feeling of claustrophobia, while also having Tourette's tics, like incessantly adjusting and straightening your shoulders because they're uncomfortable, your barometer of discomfort can at times become almost unbearable. A few years ago, my youngest daughter was driven to the point of tears in a restaurant over a similar struggle. The cause of this sense of overwhelm? The menu. She couldn't narrow down her choices and felt the pressure of the rest of us wanting to order. I understood the feeling completely. In fact, I usually end up taking a bit of a stab in the dark about what I'll order because I would otherwise get too bogged down in the details. Unfortunately for me, this sort of quandary doesn't only become apparent with restaurant menus, but with literally any choice. Any choice. As in bigger issues, like, for example, how to live my life. I've been wrestling with this problem as long as I can remember, but being finally diagnosed has helped me at least to realize that I'm not completely alone in the world. Of course, other people's autistic, ADHD, Tourette's, generalized anxiety issues will present themselves in different ways and with different combinations of symptoms. Your mileage may vary. My particular configuration of symptoms may actually be unique, even if no one of those individual traits is absolutely unique to me. What I hope to achieve with this channel and further discussion of these issues is hopefully to help anyone out there who any of this might click with, to feel not so totally alone, to feel like they also belong in this world, even though at times it doesn't feel like it. I hope I can sort of bring it all together about how the arts and music in particular have helped me through the years. I also hope that I can overcome some of my own overwhelming fears of doing the very thing I'm now attempting. I can only hope I'm not alone in some of these feelings, but putting feelings out there is a bit like sending a message in a bottle. Anyway, if you've stuck through this whole video with me, I really appreciate it. Hopefully I'll have other videos up soon to discuss these issues further.